780 acres, so it's pretty large. And they give us access to the opportunity to rent a bike and bike lanes, places where you can park your bike, and changing stations in case you get in a wreck, so that we can use it as our main mode of transportation. But with the lack of bike lanes, it either gives the bicyclists two options: to take detouring, dangerous routes, or to ride on the pedestrian-only trails. So since 2009, the police department has recorded 14 bike accidents on campus, and that doesn't seem like a lot over the past 4 years, but those are just the ones that have been bad enough to be reported. I'm sure there are some that they were fine, they just want to keep going on their day. But my goal is to map out where the safest routes and the unsafest routes are, to get from place to place on campus in the quickest time, except for going through the pedestrian-only trails, because that can cause a lot of corruption. And so in my research so far, I found 3 places, and there's a lot of factors that come into bike accidents, such as the time of day and the location. So the first one was at Willie T, and that was at 9 o'clock at night, and it basically just said that the car couldn't see the bicyclist, but then the other 2 were about the same, and one was near the parking lot by the bookstore, and then Rose and Euclid by Qdoba, and that was because the driver was looking one way and wasn't looking the other way, and the bicycle passed and they hit him. So the best way to prevent this from happening is just to follow the rules of bicycling on campus. So I've realized with riding my bike that the best way is to make eye contact, because if you see the driver, then half the time they see you, and to use signals when changing lanes to ride in a straight path. Just use a headlight, or make sure that you yield to pedestrians.
I'm going to be talking about the accessibility for bikes on campus. Bike lanes have always been both a blessing and a curse for cyclists on campus, because they're kind of a hit or miss. As you can see from this map of all the bike lanes, the lanes within campus are usually shared lanes, which means that they have both foot and bicycle traffic, which makes it very difficult for cyclists, because during class changes you have to avoid people walking. Most of the time you need to stay on the sidewalk. It's really hard to ride in the grass. Also, on the main streets, you have bicycle lanes within streets like South Limestone or Avenue Champions. These are also very inconvenient because they're placed usually within or in the middle of 2 car traffic lanes. Most people that I've talked to don't really like using these lanes because they believe that they're still very dangerous. They still think that they're going to get hit by a car somehow. And they're also very hard to get to in the first place because you're having to dodge cars to get into these lanes. There are many programs that promote cycling on campus. One is the League of American Bicyclists. They believe they're trying to move campuses towards being more bicycle-friendly, I guess. There's an article called How Bike-Friendly is Your Campus, which talks about how very few campuses across the country are bicycle-friendly. To be bicycle-friendly means that you have very strict bicycle regulations, you're very safe, you have many paths for bicycles that are still safe. UK is not considered to be bicycle-friendly. There are other problems with biking other than lanes. Bike racks are also a big problem. As you have seen outside of Keeneland, the racks are very few and they're very full, and it's very hard to park at them in the first place. Also at UK, you have to have a parking permit, which I didn't know. And apparently there are very strict penalties if you don't have one, even though I looked very hard for these penalties and didn't find any single one, so I kind of question whether they actually exist or not.
So I'm going to be talking about the financial aspects of having a bike on campus. We all know that gas prices have been skyrocketing in the past few years, and in this economy you want to save all the money you can. So riding a bike on campus instead of driving everywhere, it really helps with not having to spend so much money on gas. And miles per gallon in cities are awful anyway. It's really, really low. So having a bike to ride around campus and in the city is much more cost effective than having a car. It's also cheaper to maintain a bike than to maintain a car. So if you like getting a little bike wreck, they have do-it-yourself fix-it stations all around the campus, so you can just go and air up a tire or screw in a screw, whatever happens with your bike. But if you get in a collision with a car, you have to take it to like a mechanic, which is, as we know, pretty expensive usually. So upkeep for bikes is much less expensive than having a car on campus. Another thing about having a bike on campus instead of a car is that parking lots are much more expensive than bike racks. There is a scarcity of racks on campus, but they're so much more cheaper than parking lots. And you know, the campus just kind of takes away our parking lots willy-nilly across the campus, or across the street. They kind of did that. No big deal. But so they're taking away parking lots all the time, so having a bike on campus would be easier because they have parking racks, you know, by dorms and by classrooms anywhere, classroom buildings anywhere you really need them, and they're so much more cheap than building a whole entire parking lot. Parking permits for a bike are free, and parking permits for cars, which the parking lots for cars are way across campus if you really want to get one. It's $248 per year to have a parking lot, or our parking pass in K-Lot, which is, you know, all the way across campus for us, and it's free to have a parking permit for a bike on, and you can put it on like racks anywhere on campus that they have them. So just having a bike is much more cost friendly.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about bike theft. Bike theft is a serious crime that is prevalent on college campuses across the nation. In fact, a four-year college student has a 53% chance of having his or her bike stolen, which was a study conducted by the National Bike Registry. Like many universities, UK has been taking steps to prevent bike theft by having a registration program, which can be done online. There's going to be an example. So this is the website. It's UK Parking and Transportation Services, or UK PTS. Registration is free of charge and has many benefits, and it's good for the full life of your bike here on campus. To register, you must know your bike number or serial code. Also, like the color, the make of the bike, manufacturer. And assist with like bike theft too if your bike is ever stolen because they have a serial number on the computers. Okay, so these are examples of locks that can be used. Obviously, I don't think this bike got stolen, but the U-locks are probably the best because they can fit around the front tire and the frame of the bike. But chain locks are also nice because they're bigger, longer. They should be 3/8 of an inch long and can fit around the bike many times or around bigger objects. So those are just some options that bike owners have. You should also lock your bike everywhere. Okay, and then the last thing is the LexRide website. This is actually a really cool website. Lexington has many bike events around, but there's also a stolen bike forum where people post about where their bike was stolen. They need to know their basic information on the registry. They post pictures so they know what the bike looks like, and also they add an incentive sometimes, like cash reward, if the bike was found.
Okay, I'm going to be talking about the environmental aspect of riding a bike. The number one thing that goes along with bike riding is how much CO2 is not produced by bikes as compared to how much CO2 is produced by cars and SUVs and buses and stuff like that. Bikes use 13 times less CO2 than a car does, and as it says, 0.7 to 2 tons of CO2 per kilometers driven. The next thing is bikes in the air. Cars produce sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide and all those pollutants that really harm the air, especially during in big cities like San Francisco and New York and all those places where you get massive amounts of smog. A study was done in Australia, and it stated that 900 to 4,500 cases of respiratory disease were because of smog. The next thing is the use of bikes on roads as compared to the wear of cars on the roads. And a bike weighs 30 pounds, which is just under 4% of a Toyota Prius, which is a hybrid car, which everybody says is so much better than a regular gasoline car. And about 1%, less than 0.5% of the weight of a Hummer. And cars do so much damage to the roads by breaking down the asphalt, which makes the asphalt companies have to redo them, thus causing massive amounts of CO2 from all the production vehicles. And between 6 and 20 bicycles depending on how you place them inside of the lines, can fit inside of a car spot. So it's so much more economic to have bikes rather than cars.
Okay, very good, very good. Good job, guys. All right, our bicycles. So, do we have any questions for the bikers? Yeah, I know. Makes you guys sound so tough. I guess I'll start off. Kendall, so you were looking at the different places that are safer as opposed to more dangerous, right? So if I was a biker, what's going to be the safest route to get me like to the stadium, football stadium?
Honestly, it's probably to cut through campus because all the roads like Rose and Avenue of Chance right here, that's where most of the bicycle accidents happen. Once you get up the hill, it's not as bad over by Rose, but it probably would be to cut through campus, even though
You're not technically supposed to.
yeah, you're not supposed to, and it's not a good idea because there's pedestrians and they can get really mad.
So you mean like really drive in between buildings where people should be walking, over stairs, stuff like that?
Yeah.
That's much safer. Interesting.
It really is.
Yeah, okay, all right. And then let me see. Melissa, you did something similar too. I guess you were thinking about different paths, right? So in general, I don't know, do you ride bike already?
Not on campus.
Not on campus? But what about, I guess, outside campus, some of the roads that you see?
No. I thought about bringing a bike on campus, but then I saw how difficult it was to navigate with it, so I
Right.
just didn't bother.
Yeah. Have you lived in other places where you've been able to bike easier?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that they do that Lexington doesn't do?
Well, I mean, I've biked during smaller neighborhoods that don't have crowds of thousands of people.
Right.
So,
Okay. All right. And let me see. Bryson, I guess you ended up talking about pollution and stuff, right?
Yes.
All right. And that sort of relates, I think, to what Gwen was doing with the economics, maybe?
Yep.
So what do you see the relation between that, the pollution, and the economics, I don't know, the money that you save and where that goes?
It's mostly, it goes back to the cost of gasoline and the cost of maintenance that a car has to go through versus the maintenance of a bike, which you have a little bit, because like air is free, like,
Right.
to fill up your tires, and sometimes you have to use like WD-40 on your chains and stuff like that. But other than that, it's not like a $3,000 transmission and all those fixes on your car, and you never have to put gas in it. So it's so much more economically
Sure.
Efficient.
Sure. And Gwen, what do you say? I think you were pointing at, you found that actual permit people have to use. Is that right?
I mean, yeah, that was just a picture on it.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I guess a lot of students don't know about it. Why do you think students don't know about this?
I have no idea. It's free, so I don't know why people don't get it. Like, I mean, if you don't have a permit, there's like pretty, like they can take your bike from wherever you have it parked. Like people will, cut the chains on your bike and take it. Like
Well,
people who work for the university.
right.
So, I
If
mean,
you park it in the wrong spot.
yeah.
Well, that's what Melissa, you said as well, right? But you said you never encountered anyone who's ever had their bike, I don't know.
well, they stress on the website very much that you need to have a permit. But
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone say, you guys took my bike,
Right.
I didn't have a permit or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Impound your bike.
Well, I had an experience where my chain froze over winter, and I didn't have a permit on it, so I had to go out with wire snips and cut it myself, and hope that nobody was like, "Oh, you're stealing your bike." No, it's like,
that's funny.
it's my bike.
Yeah, that's funny. That's
But
funny.
they were like, "I can't come out and break it for you because we have no proof that it's even yours."
Sure. And I guess that relates to Courtney, bring it back to stealing bikes. So, Courtney, who do you think is responsible for stealing bikes? Why would somebody do that? And where did the bikes go after they steal them?
I don't know. Some bikes are really expensive, so
Yeah.
it might be a price issue with the, I guess, cost that they want to steal them and sell them. I don't know. Or just like other students that don't have a bike and like feel the need that they need a bike across campus to get to class. Or
Right.
whatever, so.
Have you a biker yourself, Courtney?
No, I have a moped.
Oh, you have a moped?
Yeah.
So what are some of the similarities that you think you and bikers share in terms of issues you face?
Just in general, or
Yeah.
theft.
Theft or even general, yeah, driving around?
Well, we got in a bike or moped accident on Euclid, and I would say that the bike lanes are not safe at all, even for moped users. So, I don't know, it's just like kind of hard to avoid.
Right. Okay, good. Sounds good. Any other questions for this biker group? All right, folks, thank you very